And, all right. Welcome to this week's episode of Peeved and Pickled.
Peeved and Pickled.
I am your host, Todd Happy Boynton, and this is my co-host, Christopher Rowell.
Hi.
Christopher, can you tell us what we're doing here today?
Well, today, I thought it would be a good time because my criminal law professor has given us a few different choices for our midterm exam.
Good.
One being, a 750 to 1,000 word essay, which I could flub through it, but I didn't want to. I'd be writing until next Thursday. Making 10 memes about a certain criminal law or whatever, or create a podcast. So I thought, since we already had the makings of this podcast, I thought what a great time for us to get together and have
Good
a
usage.
conversation.
Oh, there you go.
And the fact that you and I haven't had much interaction lately because of our schedules, but I thought it would be a good time for us to get together, have a talk, and we can discuss some stuff. And you and I, we don't have the same political beliefs a whole lot of time, and I think for the most part we're going to be right on par with this, but there's going to be certain aspects I think that we might have some differing opinions, and I think it would be good for podcast.
Discussion is always good.
Absolutely.
And we don't even have to talk about pickleball.
Correct. But that's, ultimately how this all started.
Excellent. So what are we working with today?
So I wanted to discuss probably the number one case that's used daily by police officers and other law enforcement officials in the United States. And it's a case from back in the mid-'60s, I believe it was 1966, Miranda versus Arizona, which we all know.
Read them their rights, Johnny.
Read them their rights, right, exactly. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish. But that whole thing.
That was excellent.
They only say certain aspects of it, like on TV, like some of these TV shows and movies, whatever. You never hear the full thing. Because the next thing is having these rights in mind. You wish to talk now, and you understand these rights. Like they go through, and it is all about your Fifth Amendment,
Which is
against
search and seizure?
No, against self-incrimination.
Self-incrimination. I take the Fifth.
Yes.
We hear a lot of that.
Right. But there's other aspects that are covered with the Miranda. And I thought that one of the things that we could do is, I know you've got some questions, and like when does an officer actually use Miranda, and like what triggers it, and how.
I think most podcasts are great when people disagree. I think we both agree Miranda's a good thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's a question of how far do you go with anything? How far do you push the line where we can get away with something? But in the end goal being justice, I think we all agree with it. So I'm fascinated to learn more about it because all I really know is what I've seen on TV.
Yeah, and that's basically what the whole premise of it is anyway. That's all that anybody knows, unless you've been on either side of issuing it or having it issued to you.
Right.
So the first thing I wanted to do was just say that I did, I guess, more of a deep dive into the actual case and how everything kind of turned out. But I used a couple different places to get my information. I used uscourts.gov, which was very insightful. Law.jrank.org, another one, another website that had a lot of information, and I kind of pieced everything together from those two. And then the last of the places that I visited, the sites that I visited was OYZ, OYEZ. I just want to make sure that I get the proper.
We'll leave links down for all these in the
Yep.
comments.
And
if they want to send us free products, feel free. We'll take something from .gov.
absolutely. Another one was justia.com.
How do you spell that one?
JUSTIA.com.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's another one of the websites that I use.
These were the sources you used for this
For
the
this,
project.
for this, but also any of the other projects or reports that I have to write
Yep.
for school. So, I mean, you're talking to a 51, nearly 52-year-old guy who hasn't had to do any schooling, real importance other than, my law enforcement activity, which
That
is
must be just
pretty
culture
limited.
shock, just in and of itself being in school now.
Well, the fact that it's online is
Yeah.
probably the best thing for me, because I don't have to try to finagle stuff around my schedule,
Yeah.
because that's, know how those are.
Right.
But yeah, so complete culture shock starting last year, and sitting down at a computer, not writing a police report, or looking up sports scores, but
Right.
having to write, a 1,000-word essay, or do some research on stuff. It was kind of a shock. But so anyway, I thought that we could go over how this all came about. So one of the things that most people probably don't know is that what's covered under the Miranda ruling, the Miranda versus Arizona ruling, 4 separate cases, all within the same time frame. And the basic premise on all of them was the fact that the Fifth Amendment was not provided to the defendant at the beginning or at the onset of the investigation, or when the subject was placed under arrest and they were asking some questions about the case. So one of the cases was, in fact, probably should have had this stuff all set aside. So there's the Miranda case. Right? Now, Ernesto Miranda, he was born in 1940, grew up in Mesa, Arizona, and for the better part of his teenage years, was not a great, by all accounts, not a great person.
Nope.
Got into some trouble. Nothing really groundbreaking, but he dropped out of school in the 8th grade. So take that aspect of it. This individual probably didn't have a whole lot of knowledge on the U.S. Constitution, the rights that.
Right. Where was Ernesto from?
He was from, grew up in Mesa, Arizona.
Okay, he was from here?
His parents came from Mexico.
Okay.
And, so he was with his father. His mother died when he was 5, so he was basically with his stepmother and father growing up. So he dropped out in the 8th grade. But that was the year in 8th grade. How old were you in 8th grade?
12, 13, maybe.
Yeah. Well, he was detained for a felony car theft that year.
Already knew how to drive.
Yeah. Well, maybe he didn't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
that's
he
how it
didn't know.
happened. And then he was sent to a boys' home
Yep.
in Arizona. And then he was released out of that in the mid-50s, 55. And then he was sent back in January of 56 for arrest for attempted rape and assault. So, that's how this young man at that time, his career
Started.
His criminal career started. So in 57, as a teenager, he ended up moving to L.A. Went to L.A. Was in prison for the 3rd time when he was in L.A.
Yep.
So now at 15, 16 years old, you know, who's been sent to lockup
Yep.
or jail of some sort. But when he was released in 1958, he joined the U.S. Army, thinking maybe
Turn my life around.
turn his life around, go to the Army, you know, whatever. No, he went AWOL very shortly after, and Peeping Tom. He was charged with the Peeping Tom case, and that earned him 6 months of hard labor in the military.
Right.
And then, at 19, he was dishonorably discharged. So.
It's more than most kids do by 19. He's got a lot of experience already.
Yep, he does, but with an 8th grade education,
Yep.
I don't envision much knowledge about some of these things that he had access to or should have had access to.
Right.
I don't think that really made it through. So, in '63, he was arrested in Phoenix, Arizona this time, as a suspect in an armed robbery case. Okay. It was of a bank robbery. While in custody, he signed his written confession, but he also confessed to kidnapping and rape a teenage girl in Arizona. So they interrogated him, got him to signed away. Yep, I did it. Right, locked up. The problem with it was once he was convicted, right, I think they realized that there was something amiss. So he received two concurrent terms, 20 to 30 years for each charge.
Right.
So he wasn't getting out. He was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. But in December of '63, his attorney went in front of the Superior Court, the Supreme Court, on the grounds that he did not know his rights with the Fifth Amendment.
Which at this time, this was before Miranda's got a Miranda.
Correct.
So all it was the Fifth Amendment, the right to not self-incriminate.
Correct. So the Arizona Supreme Court overturned his conviction in June of '66. Okay. And this is just written here. So Chief Justice Warren
Yep.
was the Chief Justice who overheard the case. His ruling outlined how law enforcement must handle interrogations going forward. Okay. Now, what we need as law enforcement officers to invoke Miranda, we need two things. We need custody, meaning that person that we're trying to talk to is not free to
Detainment.
detain.
Yep.
They're not free to
You have them. Yep.
and questioning. You have to question them about something. So, if I just arrest somebody that I see punching another person in the face, right? I see it. I don't know. Walk up, place him under arrest, put him in the car, transport him back. I don't have to issue Miranda
Because questions have not been asked.
because I'm not asking him. I'm not.
Yep.
The crime at hand was witnessed and observed by me.
Yep.
I don't need to ask him. Did you hit him? I
Yep.
saw it.
I saw it.
So there's no need for Miranda there. Now, if I see this, but then upon returning to the station, I get told, there's been a guy running around punching people in the face, for the last X number of days or weeks or whatever, this might be the guy. If I'm going to bring that up to him, now I have to invoke his Miranda rights. I have to provide them to him. I have to ensure that he understands them
Yep.
and see if he's willing to talk. So those are the main points. Okay. Um, so but this has been from the mid-60s, 66. This has been an ongoing, this is the way, talk about a landmark case, talk about shaping criminal justice, shaping the way police officers do their job. This is one of the number one cases that
This is the
we
foundation
actually,
of police work, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, of investigative police work.
Investigative, right.
Investigative police work. Because if, like I said, if you see a crime and you act
Witnessing
on
a
it,
crime is
right,
different, right?
right.
Investigating
This
a crime means questions are going to be asked.
Correct.
At that point, this person needs their Miranda warning.
Correct, correct.
I think it's a great thing.
Yep.
Uh,
Now, the other aspect is there were, like I said, 4 cases all grouped in together. Now, the 4 cases were all basically the same thing. You know, the Fifth Amendment wasn't provided to the defendant. He provided a self-incriminating statement,
Yep.
or he just said, yeah, I did it. So there was the Miranda versus Arizona in 66, Vignera versus New York also in 66, and that addressed the admissibility of statements made without proper warning. And then Westover versus the United States, also in 66, focused on the interrogation of the suspect and informing them of their rights. Right? And California versus Stewart, examined the implications of confessions contained without written warnings. Also, I think this is, in 66, I think this is just when they brought this stuff up. So,
we're all about progress, and 66 was the year we said, you know what, there needs to be a system where if you're going to ask people questions, we need to not go back and say, well, that was unfair.
correct. Yep.
So that's great.
Yep. Yeah, so...
Where has Miranda come since then? Has it changed at all?
Has not. It really, there's been very few changes. It's, probably just proper wording,
Yep.
and things. But I know one of the things that we have to now, as a police officer, we have to testify that what we gave the warnings are. So if I don't give you your Miranda, if I'm not asking you questions roadside when I make an arrest, but I bring you back to the station and I'm going to start asking you questions, during the booking process, before I start asking you questions that are involved in the crime, I will give you Miranda warnings, have you sign a form.
Right.
It says, yes, you understand, yes, you wish to talk now, and then you sign with me, I sign as a witness, or another officer, I sign as a
Right.
witness. Or if the time where I give you Miranda is on roadside, okay, because I'm investigating an incident, you're detained,
Right.
put you in the back of the cruiser, you're not under arrest yet, but you're detained, you're not free to leave, and I'm going to start asking you a question as to why you may or may not have been involved with a domestic.
Before you even ask,
Right.
I'm in a Miranda.
Yep, and I have a card that I carry with me.
Yep.
I read it verbatim. We have body cam footage that is always recorded. We have cruiser camera. So everything's recorded. So even absent it being recorded for whatever reason, I read a card,
Yep.
everything right on it, and when I write my report, I say Miranda warning were provided roadside or at the residence and on a card that I carry with me, on patrol every day, and then most likely the defense attorney will try to request that I bring that in if I was going to try. I'll just bring the card and say,
This is what I read.
This is what I read. And, but oftentimes it doesn't make it that far. They understand because not only do I read them Miranda on the road or at the house, but when we get back to the station during the booking process, I will provide the Miranda warnings again, and now we have them signed Now, if they don't want to answer questions, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, but here's something that most people may not know. You can waive your Miranda rights at any time.
Right.
Right? You can, when we're talking, you can say, yeah, I'll talk to you. The minute I hit something that you don't want to discuss, and you say,
I can re-invoke them.
Yep, you can re-invoke your Miranda, and then at that point, questioning has to stop.
You never surrender Miranda, but you can waive it for a while.
Correct.
Yes.
And
You want to
then-
talk about what I had for breakfast? I'll talk to you. You want to talk about the dead body in my trunk? We're going to use some Miranda.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And and then at that point, it's I'm gonna wait for my attorney to show up, and then
Yep.
when the attorney shows up, the attorney's gonna say, "Don't say anything." So our questioning stops anyway.
Right.
There's been some times where spontaneous utterances are made, which you invoke your Miranda. I stop asking you questions. Okay. Oftentimes during the booking process, I'm sitting at the computer and you're sitting right in front of me, and I'm paying no attention to you.
I can't believe I got caught for doing this.
Yep.
I can't believe I killed that
Yep.
guy. I can't believe I punched him.
Those things, and I will say at that point, you stated you were going to wait for an attorney. We're not asking any questions. You might want to not keep talking.
Right.
Okay. Go back about my booking procedures and letting the report with him sitting right there, and that those spontaneous utterances will eventually be put into my report. While sitting here at the booking, after invoking his Miranda, the subject's stated,
Yep.
it's caught on video, whatever. Unsolicited, unsolicited. It's like I just saw something recently about the Karen Reed trial.
Because she said something like that before she was Miranda'd.
Yeah, but she said stuff that was spontaneous utterances on scene after she found John O'Keefe. She was intoxicated the night before, and she brought up, I hit him, supposedly. Now, this is all hearsay, because that wasn't brought up to a police officer.
Yeah.
It was initially heard, supposedly heard, allegedly heard by paramedic who
Okay.
showed up on scene.
Yep.
And then I think it just kind of created a story of its own, kind of a whirlwind on its own.
Right.
And so that's what the defense kept harping on for that.
Well, you can see
Right.
how legal dramas can go on for days, weeks,
Yep.
months, and years based around when did you say it,
Right.
and were you Miranda'd properly.
Yep.
Um,
And the prosecution in that, they kept bringing that up, and the defense was, when was it said? When was it said to a law enforcement officer, or was it overheard by a paramedic
Right.
who is friends with the residents who live in the house where his body was located out front, So
Right.
there were a lot of inconsistencies with the things that the prosecution was saying, and how the defense was able to use some of those inconsistencies along with, even personally, I have a personal opinion. I don't think she did it.
Right.
But that's, I didn't sit on the trial, and I probably wouldn't have made the jury anyway.
Right.
But
You get kicked off of juries right away like I do?
pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's something about being a 50-something white man. In 20 years, the racism may be against us.
Mhm.
Because they may look at guys, 70-year-old white, you're in law enforcement, I know who you are, buddy, right? And that's racism of its own kind. I run into it all the time. People see me on the street. Man, I look like every guy wearing an ice outfit right now. I'm 50 pounds overweight with a scraggly beard and I'm bald, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think Miranda's great. I was fascinated hearing there's so much history to it, and that it's 60 years and it's still pretty much like it was to start with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just-
It's progressed very little, but it's enhanced it's enhanced law enforcement to a certain extent. Kind of handcuffs. If you're not doing good police work, if you're
Right.
not doing good investigative work,
Right.
it will kind of handcuff you. But if you're not doing good work, what are you doing the job for?
I come from the world of contracting, and it's the same thing. I can take shortcuts.
Mhm.
I can do things that may work for a while,
Mhm.
but then will fall apart. And that's what Miranda is, the foundation to make sure everything's solid.
Absolutely.
We've got you.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add?
I was going to ask you if you had any questions.
I'm fascinated about the concept of how far things can be pushed. For example, you pull me over for speeding, and I look at you and go, I killed a guy. You would right then say to me, I'm going to need to Mirandize you. It would be the goal, right? The
Yeah.
minute I brought this up, that was a spontaneous utterance before you talked to me, right?
Correct.
Because there's a lot of mental health out there.
Absolutely.
And people
Yeah.
say a lot of weird
Yep.
shit. I killed my mother.
Yep.
Your mother's right there. What are you talking about? But you hear it, and it's just there's so many layers upon layers of rules. But that is the foundation.
The other caveat to it is if you arrest a juvenile,
Can juveniles be Mirandized?
they can, but there's a couple ways. Okay, you have to find an interested adult.
Okay.
So, and that interested adult can't be another police officer.
Yep.
It can't be a dispatcher. It can't be the janitor.
Right.
At the station.
Jimmy's my next door neighbor. I've known him for 3 years. I'm interested. I could be
Right.
here for
Yes.
him.
If mom and dad aren't available,
Yeah.
and they send the next door neighbor over
Yeah.
to find out what's going on, we can
Once we get the interested party
Yeah.
to agree to Miranda,
Correct.
then we can ask
Yeah.
questions.
Or this one is sometimes harder to prove. We have to prove that there's knowledge of the criminal justice system
Okay.
inside that juvenile.
Right.
A lot of that is juvenile record. So, not the fact in our internal records that we have a list of how many times we've come in contact with someone.
Right.
It is their actual criminal history. So if they've been arrested, I don't know, say 7 times for breaking in a motor vehicle, larceny, lawn equipment,
Right.
we can prove that they know, they've had knowledge, they're well versed
Right.
in the fact that they have the ability to invoke Miranda,
Right.
not incriminate themselves. If we can prove that, then we can issue the Miranda. The other very rarely used is given enough time, or made enough effort to get the interested adult there. So just recently we arrested a juvenile, 15-year-old for a domestic assault on his younger sister.
Right.
It was pretty violent. Mom went with the daughter to the emergency room because she had some pretty severe injury.
Right.
The son was brought in. He was in the station for, at this point, probably an hour. We tried to get Mom to be able to come up to the station. She didn't have a way. She rode in the ambulance to the emergency room.
Right.
We were going to pick her up and bring her to the station so she could sit there and she could sign off that she was the interested adult, his mother. She's allowing him to either waive his right or invoke it.
Right.
And I understand she was not able to leave.
Right.
The
But now what do? We've got this 15-year-old who is detained.
Correct.
He
Yep.
is in custody.
Yep. And we spoke with Mom probably 4 or 5 times on the phone while she was at the hospital. So she
Right.
knew what the reason that we were calling for. She knew what we were what we needed
Trying to
her.
achieve,
And,
right.
not really gonna talk to him about it if you're not gonna be here. But, we'd like to provide these warnings to him.
Right.
And have him sign off on them. So that way, if he says anything, we can include that in our report.
Right.
And the mom was pretty understanding on it, and then we didn't have to ask him any questions because, we had mom's report, the daughter's report, a couple neighbors that saw it. And so we were able to just, piece everything there.
Right.
But we do have a mental health clinician that she poked her head in and was talking to him while he was in the courtroom, and he made some statements to her that were not, because it was recorded, they were not.
Admissible.
That they were admissible to a certain extent. We used them to actually send him to the hospital because he was having some mental health crisis.
Okay. Yeah.
But so juveniles are different.
Yeah.
The juvenile laws have changed. I'm going on my 28th year, and the juvenile laws have changed probably 10 times.
Thank you for your service. I know you personally. I know you're a good person, and I love that you're out there. I sleep better at night in our town knowing you're out there and guys like you are out there.
Thank you.
We may not agree on things, but we agree on fairness and the rule of law.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to nitpick the things like, well, they're cheating in the NBA today.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
We can both say that's wrong.
Right. Absolutely.
But no, Miranda is a foundation, and it's probably a shame more people don't know the history of it. So then we'll argue about our education system next time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you seen Miranda overseas? Because I've seen some foreign shows, like English shows from Britain, where it's almost the same. Do you know a crossover as to what came first?
That I don't know. And the only way that it would matter, they obviously...
It's close, but it's different. But
Right.
it's close.
Even if it was someone in Europe that was getting arrested on a crime that happened on American soil, or like at the embassy, or something like that, then they would still be covered by the U.S. Constitution. So that person would have to be provided for.
Right.
But I don't know about any other country what they do, because they have their own constitution.
I don't want to ruin it, but that might be your next project for the next session.
Maybe.
Well, thank you, Chris. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate it.
Peeved and Pickled.
Peeved and Pickled.
Look us up.
That's right.
Bada bang.